Hey, how you doing? This is Craig Beck. Let me turn some of these fans off. It's crazy hot here. Let me turn this one off. Okay. Welcome into a Stop Drinking Expert live session. I will be able to see your comments no matter where you're watching it, if you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching on Facebook. So this stream will be as long or as short as you want it to be. If you have any questions, if you have a particular situation that you're in at the moment and you want to talk about that, you want some advice, then happy to help as far as I can. If you want to share what's worked for you and give some tips and advice to other people on this journey, then your comments are very welcome as well. Hi, Janet. You got a special prize for being the first to comment today. Welcome on in. So I'll talk about anything you want, any subject around sobriety, around problem drinking, around breaking the loop of problem drinking. Ask me anything you want. The one thing I wanted to talk about was kind of mindset. And mindset's a huge part of my approach to this problem, because if you don't change your mindset, if you don't change your beliefs around anything, then it's always going to be a struggle. And that's kind of my primary focus is taking what is traditionally perceived to be a very difficult thing to deal with, what is a very torturous experience to go through. You tell someone you're giving up alcohol, nobody thinks you're having a great time. Nobody thinks you're doing it and for a fun reason. Everyone knows that you've reached a point in your life that it's become a problem and you're having to deal with it. It's not something that anyone wants to do. So, tradition tells us that quitting drinking is difficult, it's horrible, and it's a torturous process to go through. And I believe as long as you cling on to that mentality, it's always going to make it difficult to achieve your goal. Because we are human beings and we are hardwired to find the path of least resistance. Basically, we're lazy and we're greedy. That's just the way it is. And there's no getting away from it. So I want to talk about mindset this morning. Let's say hello to a couple of people. The Saint's struggling right now. Anxiety is incredible, and the only thing that fixes it is alcohol. Yeah, alcohol is the cause. Yeah, it's a vicious loop. We will come back and talk about that in a moment, Saint. Janet says, stop drinking since February this year. Fantastic. You must be really starting to see some of the benefits now, Janet. Ice cold. I need to build better coping skills than drinking. Correct. And well identified. That's a good sign that you've identified that alcohol is not what the media says it is. It's not what society says it is. It is not a solution to your problems. You've identified that you're using it to cover something else up or to cope with something else in your life that's causing you pain. And it might not sound much, but that's actually quite a profound leap to make. So ice cold, first of all, be proud of making that leap. Secondly, don't leave it lingering. Taking action. Take the next step. What do you need to do? Think of one problem in your life you're currently trying to fix with alcohol. How can you do it better? Just one thing at a time. Dorian, hi Craig. Dry since January 2019. Quitting alcohol has been the best decision of my life. Thank you. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So, the thought that was on my mind when I came on live today was this kind of mindset issue that people get into. When you identify that alcohol is a problem in your life and you make that decision, I need to give up alcohol. Initially, for a lot of people, there's this mindset of, oh my God, I can never drink again. And then they go around their life into situations that they would have gone into previously, making statements like, oh no, I can't have that. Or someone will offer them a drink and they'll say, oh no, I can't. And oftentimes most people are oblivious to this kind of subconscious state that they're living in, that alcohol has become something that they're not allowed anymore, that's prohibited from them. Oh, I can't have that, I'm not allowed it. And I think that's quite psychologically quite a damaging state to be in, because again, going back to kind of the default programming of human beings, especially in the Western world, we're not really used to being told no. You know, in a bygone age, maybe, you know, we would be more accustomed to rules and regulations and prohibition around things. But in this era of instant gratification and the marketing of the modern day that basically says you can have anything you want and you deserve everything you want, even if you can't afford to buy it, don't worry, we'll lend you the money. You can have it now if you want it. And we live in this lifestyle of instant gratification. You're entitled to everything. And so when you stop drinking and suddenly people are saying to you, you can't have this anymore, it causes huge internal conflict. There's a real battle raging in your head saying, who says I can't? And you almost start fighting against your own rules. I think what's really important is to understand that this is happening, to be aware of it, and to force yourself not to respond in that way. If you quit drinking and then you live in the assumption that you can't have alcohol anymore, you're not allowed it, you're almost setting up your own failure for a point in the future. Because there will become a point in the future that is so bad that you can no longer deny yourself the thing that you still believe is a benefit. You know, when life is going well, and when you initially start this journey and you're full of optimism and excitement, it's easy. But you know what life is like. It's a roller coaster. And at some point, something really bad is going to happen to you. You're going to lose your job. You're going to get into a financial mess. Somebody you love is going to die. And in that point, you're going to say, I don't care that I'm not allowed alcohol. I'm having it. You'll break the rules because they won't seem to matter anymore, because life will be so traumatic. You'll think, it seems so insignificant now. All that matters is getting through this painful moment. And so your mentality around this drug, and it is a drug, should be, I don't want it. I don't want that. When someone offers you a drink, you should be thinking, I don't want it. And that might, if you're currently in the loop of problem drinking, by the way, I can see comments kind of appearing here. I will say hello to people. And if you have any questions, please ask them. I'll go back to them in just a moment. I just want to make this point before I forget it, because I'm 47 now. You know, this process has to be something you want, not something that you have to do because someone else has told you. And you have done this in other areas of your life. It's not like I'm suggesting you do something impossible. There are many, many things out there that many, many people will insist and tell you are amazing. Try this, you'll get the best high of your life. Go and do this, it's the most amazing thing ever. And you'll look at them and you'll assess them and you'll say, no, I don't want to do that. That sounds horrible. Or it might be nice initially, but that looks like it's too risky, or it's got too much of this attached to it. There are so many things in your life that you've made a logical risk assessment on, and you've said, no, I don't want to do that. And the best comparison I can make is other drugs. And the saint here was mentioning earlier on, he said that he's using alcohol to cope with anxiety. Well, I'm sure you know this, saint, but there are better drugs to deal with anxiety. There are better drugs to get a high from, better illegal drugs. I mean, if heroin's going to completely take your anxiety away. Am I suggesting you use heroin? Of course not. What I'm saying is, you're not using heroin, even as though you know it exists. You're aware of it, but you don't want it. because you firmly, profoundly believe that adding heroin into your life would be a profoundly bad decision. And you're right, it would. It'd be terrible. Now, the reason you don't feel the same way about alcohol, a drug that kills over 3 million people every year, so it's not an innocent drug just because it's legal. This is much more devastating to humanity than cocaine, heroin, meth, anything you can think of. Alcohol's a mass serial killer. And yet you look at that and say, that's going to help me with my anxiety. Why? Because your programming's wrong. Your mindset is wrong. And that's what you need to change. And my goal is for everyone who does my course or comes to a boot camp, if we ever get them started again, is that their mindset changes. Not just their conscious thought, not their wants and desires, but also kind of what they believe to be true. You know, your belief that alcohol is poison needs to be as firmly set in your subconscious mind as your belief in gravity. That's how it should be, so that you have that strength, that knowledge that when you're offered an alcoholic drink, you don't have to arm wrestle with yourself to say, no, I must be a good boy or girl. I must avoid the thing that I want the most. Instead, you can look that person in the eye and say, no, I don't want that. Have you got Coca-Cola? Or have you got mineral water? Have you got whatever your preference is? So kind of my message today is, if you're dealing with this issue in your life and you're currently in the state of forcing yourself not to have alcohol, or you're telling other people that you're not allowed it, I want you to work on that, because that's going to trip you up eventually. And even if you're doing great now, there is going to come a point in the future where it's going to trip you up. You need to work on this until you get to the point where you firmly, 100% believe that your life is better without alcohol, and you would be an idiot to introduce it back into your life. That's kind of my thought process today. Let's say hello to a few people before I miss some people. Mick is here. Mick, always good to have you here. 2.5 years sober with your help. Thank you. I have a question about dating. I'm married, Mick. No, I'm only joking. I'm ready to date. Is it possible for an ex-drinker to date someone that drinks? That's a great question, Mick. I've done it. It depends on how much they're drinking. If they're a problem drinker, it kind of depends why you're dating and where you want the relationship to go. My wife drinks, but when I say that, she will drink maybe she will have 4 or 5 beers a year. It's like every couple of months she might say, "Oh, I'll have a beer." We never have alcohol in the house. And occasionally at a restaurant, she will have a cold glass of beer or a shandy or something like that. In that sort of situation, I think it's perfect. It doesn't bother me at all, because alcohol's just not a presence in our life. And it doesn't bother me that my wife has the occasional beer. It's literally just, it's so insignificant in the relationship that it's not worth thinking about. It doesn't impact our relationship in any way. Now, having said that, I did live with, when my first marriage ended, I had a relationship with a woman, and I moved in with her. And I only discovered after I moved in with her that actually she was a problem drinker. And that on days when she'd had a stressful day, she would get drunk. She would go to the shop and she would buy a couple of bottles of wine and she would get drunk. And I noticed that when she was having a tough time at work, this was happening more and more. And it's starting to happen a couple of times a week, 2-3 times a week. And she would get so drunk that she became like a stupid zombie. And that was really sad for me, because one of the things I really found attractive about her was her intelligence. And I think the biggest problem you'll have, Mick, is if you get into a serious relationship with someone who's got a drinking problem, is it's heartbreaking. It's really, really hard to love someone and watch them destroy themselves like that. Even if they're not full-blown alcoholics, but you're aware of where you've been with your own journey, and you can see someone you love doing so much damage, and it's very hard to watch. And it's very hard to turn a blind eye to and not say anything. And of course, when you do start saying things, you get friction, because most drinkers don't want to hear the truth. They just want plausible deniability. They want to be able to tell themselves a narrative that makes sense, i.e., I'm only drinking because I've got a stressful job, or I'm only drinking because, well, I suffer from anxiety or something. There needs to be some validation for what they're doing. And if you come along and kind of pour cold water on that thing that they've been using, it's going to cause friction in your relationship. Mick, I believe it's best to be honest up front that you don't drink, because when I was dating, I did have a couple of dates cancel when they found out I didn't drink, which is kind of shocking, isn't it? I would get like an email or a text message half an hour before the date, and they'd say, oh, I just noticed on your internet dating profile, it says you don't drink alcohol. Is this true? And I would say, yeah, absolutely true. And they'd say, okay, well, there's no point in us meeting then, because I enjoy a nice drink with a fine, fine wine with a meal and all that sort of stuff. And it's kind of shocking, but in a way it's a good thing, because it kind of saves you wasting your time with people who blatantly have a problem and still haven't addressed it or admitted to it. So, Mick, it is possible. It's difficult. Ideally, you want to be getting into a relationship with someone to whom alcohol is not really a massive thing in their life. They can take it or leave it. Getting into a relationship with someone who has a problem, you know the situation here. You're not going to be able to change them. You can only change one person, and that's you. B, it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. And C, it's going to hurt you a lot to watch someone you love go through this process. So, look, it's another filter. It's not, don't make it a big deal. I mean, you have many filters about the sort of person you want to date. If you went on a date with someone and you found out they were a massive racist, you probably wouldn't want to see them again. If you go out on a date with someone and you realize that they're actually a problem drinker, you just apply the filter. This person is not right for me. So it's possible, but just makes it a little bit, I don't want to say trickier, because actually the outcome is much better. When you have this filter that you're not going to date problem drinkers, you start meeting better quality matches. You start meeting people who are long-term prospects, who could possibly be the man or woman that you spend the rest of your life with. So I think it's a good thing. Hope that helps, Mick. Varun, nice to see a lot of people from India follow you, trying to leave alcohol. Varun, I do get a lot of messages from India. Is it a big problem in India? Is it kind of hidden? It's not kind of an area that I know a lot about, but it would be interesting to see some data on that. Jim says, I can stop easily for a few days or weeks when on holiday. Once I get home, it's onto the bottle and smokes. Can you comment on this? Yeah. Jim, in the course, I talk a lot about subconscious anchors. And the easiest way to explain it is to talk about Pavlov and his dogs. I talk about this a lot. The story of Ivan Pavlov, the Russian scientist who did experiments with his dogs. He'd ring the bell and then feed them. Ring the bell and then feed them. And eventually he noticed that he didn't need any food. He could just ring the bell and the dogs would salivate and expect to be fed as though there was food there. Why? Well, what we know is that the subconscious mind creates physical pieces of meat in the head, pathways, programs, like computer programs. And when you do something often, the subconscious mind goes, all right, look, he's going to do this regularly. So we don't need to involve the conscious mind. We don't have to have the conscious mind making a decision whether to do it or not. Let's just create an automatic program. And it puts it into your subconscious mind and buries it where you can't get access to. You don't know where it is. You can't delete it. You can't find it. It is now there. And there is a reason why you can't get access to it, and that is that you can't be trusted. Because in this part of your brain, there are all these programs that beat your heart perfectly, control your body temperature, control your breathing, your respiration, and all these important things. If you had access to this part of your brain, you would be dead in less than 5 seconds. Excuse me. So, I mean, it does sound very much like that when you get into your house, you're activating all these anchors all over the place. You're activating these alcohol programs. And it's very common. In my online course, I talk about my lazy boy armchair. My drinking routine was I'd get home from work, take my coat off, open a bottle of wine, and sit in my lazy boy armchair watching TV until I fell unconscious. So when I was quitting drinking, where was the worst place for me to be? In that lazy boy chair. Because as soon as I sit in that chair, it's like Pavlov ringing his bell. So when you go off on holiday, when you outside your own home, you find it so much easier because you haven't got all these anchors everywhere to stand on and activate the alcohol program. And then when you come home, you activate them. Now, in the course, I talk about the 4 things. And the 4 things are basically how you stop these anchors from activating, how you stop the program from running. I won't go into it now because it's quite a long process, but you'll find other videos about it, and it's in the course as well. The goal here is to stop the program running long enough that it erodes, becomes weak, and eventually fails to fire. And when you get to that point, you can walk into any situation and you don't get that sudden urge to drink, that kind of, ooh, do with the drink. So I hope that helps. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not weak-willed. It's not that you're a failure or anything like that. It's pure psychology. You're just treading on these anchors that are now buried in your head. Warrior, I have anxiety when I don't drink. Any advice? Yes. The problem with using alcohol to stop anxiety is it doesn't stop anxiety. It kind of time shifts it forward. So it's like having a pause button on a remote control that you're pointing at your anxiety, and all you're doing is you're feeling anxious and you're drinking and hitting the pause button. But at some point, the tape has to play, and you're just going to get the anxiety magnified later on. And then you're going to drink because you subconsciously believe that drinking makes your anxiety go away. It doesn't. It just time shifts it forward. So all you're doing when you're drinking is you're moving your anxiety forward and then amplifying it. So you had the anxiety you would have had yesterday plus the anxiety you should have had today that you time shifted forward, and you get into a loop. You get into a cycle. And you really got to change your thinking on this from short term to long term. Because if you stay tunnel visioned about this, if you stay short term, you're going to continually say to yourself, alcohol stops my anxiety. It doesn't when you look at the big picture. It makes it worse. It makes it 10 times worse. You need to find a better solution to your anxiety. You need to get the alcohol out of your life so you can find out what's causing it. Where is it coming from? Do you know? If you don't know, you need to go and get some therapy. Now, it doesn't just, it could be timeline therapy where you go back over your past life, or it could be talking therapy. But you need to take this seriously and find out what is causing your anxiety. chances are you're not consciously aware of why you feel anxious. It just appears, yeah? So find out what's causing it, and then do some research and get serious about finding a coping mechanism for anxiety. Because alcohol is not a solution. There is much better paths you can take. It just needs a bit of time and effort on your part. So it's not an easy answer, I know that, but it's important that you change your mindset and kind of step back from this and see the whole picture of what's going on, because the moment you're in a spiral that will only get worse. Jim, thank you very much for that super chat. Very, very kind of you. I appreciate it. Judy Cook, 500 days AF tomorrow. You legend, you superstar. Thank you very much. Well done. Diane stopped on the 4th of December 2017. Never looked back. Amazing, Diane. Well done. Evening, Darren. Welcome on in. Chef Monty, anxiety is the reason I started drinking in the first place. So many people do it. And stress, you know. And why? Because initially it appears to work, doesn't it? And then your subconscious goes, oh, great, we have a solution to anxiety. Let's build that program. But it's not really a solution. It's an illusion. It's a devious illusion. Mick, thank you, Craig. My ex went into rehab. She couldn't be with someone that drinks. Was that enough for me to give up? No, I had to do it for me. Exactly. As I say, Mick, you know, nobody can do it for you. You can't do it for someone else. Even, I mean, that's one of the most heartbreaking things, is to watch someone you love kill themselves with alcohol, because there's nothing you can do apart from a few little tinkering around the edges, but they have to do it for themselves. That's why I always describe it as a tightrope walk, you know, and your partner can go ahead of you. They can follow behind you, but they can't come alongside you. You've got to do this on your own. James, have you had many people come to you with a gambling problem that triggers alcohol problems? Not really. There are kind of codependencies in addiction, because look, 99.9% of the people who come to me with problem drinking, alcohol is not the problem. Alcohol is a symptom of a bigger problem. Alcohol is a coping mechanism. It's something they're using to cover up pain. And the pain is different for everyone. It can be loneliness, it can be boredom, it can be being in an abusive relationship, it can be, you know, trauma from childhood. There are, you know, a million different combinations of pain that people are suffering with. And they're using alcohol to cover it up. And sometimes they'll use other things as well. They'll have a gambling problem, or they'll have a drug problem, or they'll be addicted to exercising, or they'll have obsessive compulsive disorder. They'll have other elements that are there as coping mechanisms to try and bury the pain that they don't want to deal with. And so, look, you know, honestly, you know, I may have given up alcohol as my coping mechanism, but I'm not so stupid that I think, yay, now I'm cured forever and there's nothing wrong with me. Because there are definitely still other areas of my life that are out of control that I use to cover up something else. That's why this is a continual journey. You know, I'm trying to work on myself, because we're all broken. Everyone's broken, just in different places. You know, for me, you know, food is something that I find difficult to stay in control of long term. And I'm, you know, I can put weight on and I can lose weight, but I wouldn't say I'm completely in control of it. And I believe that's an element of a kind of a throwback to my alcohol addiction. It's just that back then I was using alcohol to try and cover up cracks and things in my life. So, you know, I think a lot of people look at me and think, oh, well, you know, it's all right for you, Craig. You've done it. You've achieved this. You're at the end of the road. Absolutely not. You know, I still see a therapist talk about stuff in my life. And I still maintain that everyone is broken. So gambling is just another coping mechanism. It's just another thing in your life. The thing is with alcohol, where it's different to cigarette smoking and gambling, is that alcohol changes your consciousness. You can't really deal with the problems underneath alcohol until you take away the alcohol, because your thinking is too fuzzy. You can't see the wood for the trees because this drug is getting in the way of your capacity to heal. So it's important that you get rid of the alcohol, and then you go through the therapy and find out what's been causing all this pain in your life. Or if you already know what the pain is, get busy on a plan to remove this from your life. Long, complicated answer, huh? Let's see. Hi, Charles. Welcome on in. Robert Woods, good morning, Craig. Thanks for your help. Alcohol was important in my life for 45 years, 3 years now. Looking back, drank to fit in, accept life as it is. I feel it is the first step, no pretense. Yeah, it's a good point. That's how we all start, isn't it? It's a social lubricant, you know, and especially if you're very young when you start drinking, you haven't got the confidence, you haven't got the self-belief. Maybe you've got a little bit of self-loathing. And alcohol, it's not that it gives you confidence, it just makes you stupid. And if everyone drinks alcohol together, stupid people can hang around together and have stupid conversations without judging each other so much. But unfortunately, for a lot of us, then we start applying the alcohol sticking plaster to other areas of life. Natalie, welcome, Natalie. I'm a binge drinker, trying to use my tools these days not to do it. Good. Try is always a dangerous word, isn't it? When I did my NLP training, my coach said to me that try means fail. If he ever asked you a question and you said, I'll try, he went, oh, you're planning to fail, are you? So just remember what I said at the start of the video, Natalie. It's about mindset. You don't have to try and not take heroin. You don't have to try and not take other dangerous drugs, because your mindset, your programming is perfectly aligned around those drugs. It's just a bit misaligned around alcohol. So less arm wrestling with yourself and more knowledge and conditioning to get into the state where you don't have to try. It's just automatic. Natalie, nothing good comes from drinking. I know that. Absolutely right. Darren says that's how I started, anxiety and stress. Yeah, very common, Darren. Aaron, for me, the drinker's mindset disappears when you start to realize that we have been conditioned to drink by society to relieve anxiety. 4.5 years clear. That's the best thing I ever did. Amazing, Aaron. Love it. Yeah. The conditioning is everywhere. And it's really bad. I don't know if you've noticed this, and I've mentioned this a few times. Have you noticed that whenever you watch like a TV cop show or a detective show, you know, like I'm trying to think of an example, but any of them, Line of Duty, that sort of thing. Have you noticed a couple of things? First, everyone drinks neat whiskey. Have you noticed that? No ice. Everyone drinks neat whiskey in TV shows. B, they drink like a quarter bottle per serving. They drink, I haven't got a glass handy. They drink a glass and it's like 2/3 full of whiskey in TV shows. I mean, you'd be paralytic. But they drink it and go, want another one? Yeah, don't mind if I do, governor. And they drink another one. Everyone drinks neat whiskey by the pint in TV shows because they're tough, hard-nosed cops doing a dangerous job. What is that saying to the young people watching TV? That drinking a pint of whiskey is perfectly normal after a hard day at work. So we've gone from beer drinkers and lager drinkers on TV. Now all TV shows, everyone drinks neat whiskey. That's going to work out well, isn't it? It's crazy, and it's everywhere, everywhere. I mean, I was on the London Underground about a month ago. There are adverts for Jack Daniels basically celebrating the end of lockdown. Lockdown's over. Celebrate with Jack. It's just everywhere. It's crazy. But once you step out of the bubble, once you step out of the matrix and you start looking at it, you realize what's happening. You realize what's being done. It's just absolute bonkers. Morse, yeah, Elizabeth Ann, Morse. Actually, alcohol killed him, didn't it, John Thor? He was a heavy drinker all his life. Who's the one? Michael Elphick. You remember him from, was it Boone back in the 80s, 90s? And then he did a detective show called Harry that was filmed in Darlington. Alcohol killed him as well. What do we got here? Rock Salt. Thank you, Craig. This really helps. I'm glad. Thank you, Rock Salt. Coffee Man, hi. Johnny, I used to be quite a heavy drinker. Now I can't stand the taste. I know if you're a full-blown alcoholic and I think of going back, forget it. Yeah. My mates still tease me by saying, go on, have a beer. Yeah, they do. Drinkers like, well, drinkers all think they've got a lot of friends. They think they're very sociable. They think they're very popular. Look, I'm telling you that most of your friends will only come to your funeral because there's alcohol there. That's the harsh reality. Drinkers like company. Why? Not because they're sociable, not because they're funny, not because they're friendly, because it validates what they're doing. It's safety in numbers. Surely if everyone in this group of intelligent people is doing the same thing as me, then it's safe. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. There's no logic to that. It's like, I make the analogy in the course, it's like Russian roulette. If you play Russian roulette, you put one bullet in the gun, you pull the trigger, it doesn't matter how many other people are in the room also playing Russian roulette, your odds of dying remain exactly the same. It doesn't matter how many people you drink with, your odds of something terrible happening to you and your family are exactly the same. But it's an illusion that drinkers like to create because it makes them feel better about drinking poison for fun. True, right? Life on Mars, DCI Gene Hunt. Right? Yeah, pint of whiskey, please. Crazy. Old movies, Two Fingers of Red Eye, yeah. Chef Monty, over a year sober. Thank you for all your help. Loved the book as well. All right, guys, look, we're going to wrap up there. Thank you very much for being with me today. If you are here kind of sitting on the sidelines wondering whether you should do something about this problem, go to my website, stopdrinkingexpert.com, and you can sign up for today's free webinar, and I'll talk you through how my process works. And at the end of the webinar, as a thank you for staying to the end, I'll give you a free copy of my book, Alcohol Lied to Me. So thanks so much for watching. Have an amazing Wednesday, what's left of it, and we will speak very soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.